The maddowblog. Chrome _ header left curly bracket background image. URL http://cd.lib.newsvine.com/chrome/themaddowblog/images/header.jpg equals 10,462 right curly bracket. Cornyn's Convenient Change of Heart. By Steve Bannon. Friday, September 6, 2013, 10:23 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Associated Press. In March, Senate Minority Whip John Cornyn, R. Texas, appeared at an event in Atlanta and publicly endorsed U.S. intervention in Syria. Then President Obama expressed support for military strikes in Syria, at which point Cornyn reconsidered. Indeed, in a curious twist, the Texas Republican said this week many questions are still left unanswered, which led to a meeting with the president in the White House in which Cornyn asked no questions. All of which leads us to now. A Cornyn aide said Thursday that the senator currently opposes the Syria resolution, which will be debated in the Senate floor next week. If the vote were held today, Senator Cornyn would vote no, said Megan Mitchell, a spokeswoman for Cornyn. The immediate significance of this is that Cornyn is the first leading congressional Republican to express opposition to authorizing the use of force. In the House, the top two GOP leaders, House Speaker John Boehner and House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, endorsed the resolution earlier this week, while in the Senate, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is too afraid to say much of anything. But it's the larger context of announcements like these that stand out. Continue reading this entry. Permalink 17 comments. Filed under Syria, Foreign Policy, John Cornyn. Hans Blix on How the World Would Receive a Strike in Syria by the U.S. Alone. By Ron Jabaji. Friday, September 6, 2013, 9:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. As the debate about military intervention in Syria continues, it seems like almost everyone has an opinion in the matter. At the end of the day, though, the debate will be dictated by the evidence. The intelligence gathered must back up the claims being made. For first-hand insight in the tension between waiting for the UN's conclusions and a nation's sense of urgency for military action, we called an expert former chief UN weapons inspector for Iraq from 2000-2003, Hans Blix. In Thursday night's show, Rachel shared Blix's response to Secretary of State Kerry's case for action against Syria. We also spoke with him about what it would mean if the U.S. acted alone in Syria. Here's what he had to say. I think it is very unfortunate, and I think an unwise course in which the U.S. is now. They talk about enforcing a norm, the ban in the use of chemical weapons, and Mr. Obama said here that it was not he that set the red line, it was the world community that set the red line. Well, that can be said, but I don't think the world community has appointed the US or the UK or anybody else to be the policeman to police these norms. It's the Security Council that is the world/s policeman, a rather poor policeman, I agree, but nevertheless a policeman. And also, if we say that this is the norm, that the red line is drawn by the world community, then there is another norm, red line, that is drawn by that community, and that is the Charter of the United Nations. And the Charter forbids member states to use the force or threat to use the force against others, unless they are acting in self-defense against an armed aggression or the heavy authorization of the Security Council. Blix went on to refer to President Obama's own remarks upon receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009, in which he talked about the global community isolating nations that don't adhere to international norms. I think, if US goes alone here and not adheres to the standards of the Charter, it will weaken the US. It will isolate the US in the world. There are some states that will support and some states that will not object terribly, but the vast majority of states, I think, would oppose a unilateral strike. And if they don't, if they were to take the issue to the General Assembly, I think they would see that very clearly. Permalink 18